This is Parahan, and you are listening to The Parahan Show. Is there a connection between ghosts, aliens, and other paranormal phenomenon like Bigfoot? Is there some sort of link between all of these entities? You know, what's fascinating about this is that when you look at cases of alien abduction, or you look at cases of hauntings, you often see that they mimic one another. There is this common reoccurring theme of an unforeseen entity visiting someone at night. You also see this association with orbs and lights seen throughout the home or around the home. You often see strange marks or scratches. You often see electrical interferences in the home. And it's hard sometimes to differentiate when you're investigating a case. Is this an alien abduction or a case of a haunting? So is there some connection between the two? I've been investigating the alien abduction phenomenon for a very long time. And some of the cases that I've investigated over the years, I've seen this common element. They all seem to report that when they were younger, they experienced what they thought were ghosts. And, you know, it's not that they've only been abducted by what they believe is extraterrestrials, but as a young individual, they experienced something similar to ghosts. So I've always wondered, is it not that they experienced ghosts as a child, but could it be potentially that these were extraterrestrials, that they were aliens visiting them, but disguising themselves as ghosts? You know, when you think about if aliens were to visit us, if they were to abduct us or take us in our sleep, right? Then they would want to cover their trails. So they would most likely hide themselves, disguise themselves as something that we know to throw us off. And you see this a lot of times when people experience alien abduction. They talk about this fact that they cannot actually remember the faces of their captors, but they can, when they do think about it, they remember things like owls or often other animals or places. And it's almost as if these aliens, these extraterrestrials, do something to prohibit them from having thoughts about what they actually look like. And the only thing that they can remember is these programmed thoughts that are given to them, these ideas. And if you think about it, right, a alien, if it was going to come and visit us, it could walk amongst us, it could hide amongst us, pretending to be a ghost. Because we can't go and ask, if we think something's a spirit of the deceased, we can't go and ask them and say, hey, were you here in my home the other night? Right? Because that person is going to know, no, I wasn't in your home. And there's probably evidence to suggest that they weren't there. But if they pretend to be something that no longer exists, that in a human physical form, then we're going to think that that's the human that returned to that home, that died in that home. And so perhaps they take the forms of past individuals, and specifically in these homes that experience traumatic events. I think there's also this possibility that these spirits, these ghosts, could potentially be some sort of intelligent life form. I mean, who's to say that biological life forms haven't evolved past the need of a physical body somewhere out there in the universe? Perhaps these ghosts that we see are indeed aliens from another part of the universe that have came here to Earth and have the ability, or perhaps they are very much from the earth themselves, and that they lived here for millions or perhaps longer here on earth, and we simply haven't been able to see them because they've evolved past the need of a physical body, and they can almost mimic forms of light to appear as anything we would like to see them. And the reason they appear as ghosts is because they feel like that would be the way to reach us, to appear in human form of a deceased person, and that might be more accommodating to communicate it through that way than specifically appearing in any other form. And maybe perhaps this is why they appear in orbs, or we often see them in other forms, is because they are simply beings without a body that have the ability to bend light or use light to appear, to materialize. And I've often thought about that, Could ghosts actually be some sort of biological life form that exist here on Earth or from another planet? There's an interesting Doctor Who episode where they do a whole episode about this, where the ghosts turn out to be aliens. And they're like these tiny little beings that can form together and form shapes and objects, and they're pretending to be ghosts. And so that made me think, that could potentially be, because we don't really fully understand ghosts or what exactly they are. Another theory that I've had, that I've often subscribed to, is that connects all these paranormal entities is that what if perhaps these ghosts, these aliens, these Bigfoot, are essentially visions of different periods of time? What if they are time travel, essentially? You have 2 points in time merging together, and for a short period of time, we can see into the past or the present or the future. Think about it. What if when we see a ghost, this is essentially 2 points in time coming together, and we are seeing in real time what's happening in the 1700s, and we are seeing, or the 1800s, or even before then, right? What if the reports of the Loch Ness Monster are simply us viewing into the past and seeing a plesiosaur for a short period of time, and this would explain why the Loch Ness Monster and other creatures like that are so elusive, how they seem to almost disappear and we can't find any evidence of them, because really they're not physically there in our time, but in their time they are existing, and we are able to peer into that time. And what if aliens are from the future and they have discovered the ability to travel through time, and they are coming back from the future and visiting us here and studying us to learn about the past? And that would explain why they abduct us, why there are alien abductions, because they are trying to learn about the past, much as we would if we could travel back in time. We would want to figure out, and run experiments if we could actually test DNA of, famous individuals, or even just people from then, and understand how life was back then, what their diet consists of, things like that we try and do through archaeology. But this is more a medical archaeology, if you will. And what if it's that, Bigfoot, same thing, right? This is from a period of time when there was this missing link, this step in evolution where apes had started becoming bipedal and walking upright and almost had evolved into their human-like form, almost Neanderthals, if you will. And what we are seeing is into the past, these creatures that once existed. And that is why these Bigfoot are so elusive, and that's why they seem to tend to disappear, And so perhaps there is this connection between all the paranormal entities, and even when you think about things like, Mothman, the Dover Demon, all these other cryptids, could these be from a past time on the earth, or even in the future when evolution has moved a step further and that we're not actually experiencing creatures from another part of the universe? This is here on earth, but these are different points in time. And what's interesting is that you see with a lot of these paranormal entities, they often are in areas with high electromagnetic fields, often in areas where certain metals are present. Okay, and you look at where the highlands are, where the Loch Ness monster is seen in Scotland, right? There's a lot of known different metals and things that are present in that environment that could potentially cause that space to be more prevalent to time slips, to allowing 2 points in time to merge together, or specific homes that there's such strong EMF field, or potentially the metals or certain things that are present in the environment to allow time to sort of merge together and allow us to peer into the past or the future. So it's definitely something very interesting to think about, because I don't think we never try and connect all the paranormal entities. But what's interesting to me is that what we see from people that experience anything with the paranormal is they never seem to experience just one thing. I myself personally have had many paranormal encounters throughout life, and not just with one specific entity, extraterrestrials, ghosts, Bigfoot. And this is the same with a lot of people. And I think that's hard to believe, because, you tell me you've seen Bigfoot and ghosts and aliens. That sounds crazy. But maybe there's a reason to that. Maybe some people are more susceptible to these time slips, or they have the ability themselves to create these time slips and see into the past or future. Or maybe there's some reason that these things are all connected, that potentially people who experience the paranormal do so because of the connections between all these entities. This is Parahan. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.